My sister announced her secret child with my husband at my birthday party. Then I did this. My name is Talia Green. I'm 34 years old. And for as long as I can remember, my younger sister Nia has always taken what was mine. My dolls, as children, my shoes during high school, my place in every family photograph. But I never imagined she would take my husband. Not until that golden afternoon at the birthday celebration my parents had organized for me, when she stood before our entire family and revealed she had been secretly raising a child with my husband Darren. I felt my chest constrict as if all air had been stolen from my lungs. What she didn't realize was that I had been harboring a secret too, and what I knew would transform their little scandal into a catastrophic explosion. Growing up in St. Louis as Nia's older sister felt like living perpetually under storm clouds. I was born for years before her, quiet, observant, constantly striving to make the right choices. But the moment Nia arrived, everything shifted. My parents, Danielle and Victor, seemed to illuminate whenever she entered a room. She became their miracle baby, receiving prettier dresses, more elaborate birthday parties, and the last scoop of ice cream, even when it rightfully belonged to me. Danielle would frequently say, "Look at how talented Nia is," while Nia across our walls. Meanwhile, my perfect attendance record and straight A's earned me a distracted "good job, honey," while they glanced back at the television. My father coached Nia's volleyball team but never once attended my citywide spelling bee. These countless small betrayals accumulated quietly, forming an invisible wall inside my heart. I convinced myself it didn't matter. I refused to become bitter. But bitterness, I discovered, grows silently until it takes root in your very bones. By the time I was old enough to leave home, I did exactly that. I enrolled at Xavier University in New Orleans, far from Missouri, far from Nia's overshadowing presence. It proved to be the best decision I ever made. For the first time in my life, I wasn't standing in anyone's shadow. I cultivated friendships with people who genuinely appreciated me. I discovered a passion for brand strategy and digital storytelling. During my senior year, I met Darren Rhodes, the kind of man who didn't feel compelled to fill every silence with unnecessary words. He was confident without being arrogant, possessing soft brown eyes and the type of laugh that made you laugh even when you hadn't heard the joke. We met during a campus business competition. His team lost, while mine emerged victorious. He offered to take me to lunch as a consolation prize for himself. I found myself liking him immediately. Our lunch evolved into dinner, which transformed into morning walks and shared music playlists. He would say things like, "You make everything feel lighter, Talia," and for once, I believed someone truly meant it. After graduation, we moved to Charlotte together, both securing positions in corporate consulting. 2 years later, he proposed on a garden rooftop during spring's peak bloom. When I said yes, I thought I had finally outrun my painful past. Of course, my mother insisted that Nia serve as my maid of honor. "It would crush her if you didn't ask," she declared. Looking back, I don't understand why I didn't fight harder against this decision. The warning signs were always visible. Nia wore a champagne satin gown to my bridal shower. She delivered a speech at the rehearsal dinner that mentioned herself more than me. At the wedding, she cried louder than my mother and somehow managed to catch the bouquet twice. Still, I brushed off these red flags. "She's just insecure," I told myself. Darren once said, "You possess everything she wants, and that's not your fault." I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Our first years of marriage flowed smoothly. Darren and I purchased a modest townhouse just outside Charlotte. We hosted neighborhood cookouts, traveled to Jamaica, and steadily advanced in our respective careers. I was building a digital branding agency with 3 close friends, while Darren had recently been promoted to senior client manager at a logistics firm. We discussed starting a family, but Darren always wanted to wait. "I want to get us financially solid first," he would say. I agreed, though I began wondering if that was really the true reason behind his hesitation. Then, approximately a year ago, something began to change. Subtle at first, Darren started working late, more frequently. His phone rarely left his pocket. Passwords changed without explanation. He would flinch when I walked into rooms while he was texting. "It's work. Stress," he claimed repeatedly. I desperately wanted to believe him, but when I caught a whiff of unfamiliar perfume on his shirt, something floral and heavy that I didn't own, I felt my stomach twist with dread. That gut feeling only intensified the day I discovered a curly brown strand of hair on his jacket. My sister Nia had curly brown hair. Still, I told myself it couldn't be possible. Yes, she lived in Charlotte now too. Yes, she appeared unexpectedly sometimes, but she had a boyfriend or so she claimed. And Darren. No, not my Darren. As my 34th birthday approached, my mother planned an elaborate backyard garden party at a botanical venue just outside the city. Let's make it special, she said enthusiastically. Everyone's coming. Everyone, including Darren and Nia. That afternoon, the sun hung high and the weather was absolutely perfect. Rows of white folding chairs, lavender table linens, and trays of sweet tea lined the patio. Family members mingled near the garden fountains while music floated through the warm breeze. I wore a soft plum-colored sundress that Darren once said made me look like royalty. I styled my hair the way he preferred, soft curls framing my face. Despite everything, I still wanted to try repairing whatever had begun breaking between us. My parents arrived first, beaming with pride. My mother handed me a gift bag. Nothing major, she said dismissively, just a little something. My father nodded approvingly. Happy birthday, Talia. You're always the steady one. Steady, not brilliant, not extraordinary, just steady. I smiled through the familiar sting and poured myself some lemonade. Darren texted that he was on his way, offering no explanation for why he wasn't riding with me. I didn't push for answers. A few minutes later, Nia arrived in true dramatic fashion. She wore a vibrant orange dress that clung like a second skin. Her curls were styled to perfection, gold hoops catching the sunlight as she twirled dramatically and announced, "Y'all didn't think I'd miss my sister's big day, did you?" Everyone turned toward her, but what made my heart plummet wasn't her dress or her theatrical voice. It was Darren walking in directly behind her, holding a gift bag and a toddler little boy no older than 2. With soft brown skin, dimples, and curls like Nia's, and unmistakably, Darren's eyes. Everything inside me froze. For a moment, I thought the sun had played tricks on my vision. That somehow this surreal image of Darren standing beside my sister holding a child was something conjured by heat and suspicion. But when the little boy clung to Nia's leg and called her mama, all doubt vanished. My world didn't crumble with a crash, it cracked with deafening silence. "Oh," my mother gasped, clutching her chest as she rushed over. "And who is this little angel?" Nia laughed, all sugary sweetness. "This is Jeremiah," she said brightly, scooping him up onto her hip. I wasn't planning to bring him, but Darren said, "Why not let the family meet him today? And it is a family celebration." She looked directly at me when she said it. Her smile contained nothing soft. It was a challenge. Darren avoided my eyes, instead kneeling to adjust Jeremiah's tiny sandals. I stood frozen on the lawn as the people I love, my aunts, cousins, even my father crowded around the child and cooed over him like he was a birthday present sent from heaven. "Doesn't he look just like Darren?" my Uncle Jerome said, chuckling. "Yes, and he's got Nia's nose," my mother added, completely ignoring the way my entire body had stiffened like rebar. I cleared my throat, trying to regain control of the moment. "Nia, can I speak to you for a second?" She arched an eyebrow. "Of course." But first, she handed Jeremiah to Darren and stepped forward, clinking a glass with a fork. "Before the cake comes out, I'd love to say something real quick. After all, it is my sister's birthday." Everyone quieted, smiling toward her, expecting another one of her signature dramatic toasts, but I could feel it, I could sense something brewing behind her smirk. Nia turned to me and spread her arms as if making a grand declaration. "Talia, I've always admired your strength, your determination, your ability to keep things together. So today, on your birthday, I want to give you the truth, a truth that's long overdue." The silence became too deep, too long. "I have a son," she continued, gesturing toward Jeremiah. "And he's not just any little boy, he's Darren's child." Gasps erupted throughout the crowd. Somewhere behind me, a drink fell and shattered on the stone path. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just stared. "Jeremiah is our child," Nia said, lifting her chin defiantly. "And we've been raising him quietly for the last 2 years. But it's time our family knows the truth. Darren and we've built something real, and we're not hiding anymore." Darren finally spoke, his voice low and trembling. "Talia, I didn't mean for it to come out like this." I laughed, a bitter, dry sound. "No, you mean not at my birthday party? Not while you parade your child in like a gift bag, surprise." "I tried to tell you," he said. "It was complicated." "Complicated?" I cut in. "This is betrayal, Darren. This is war." My father blinked rapidly. "Now hold on. You're saying Darren fathered this child with Nia, your own sister. It wasn't supposed to happen like that, Darren mumbled weakly. Nia stepped in again. Let's not pretend you two were still solid. You were already drifting apart. Darren needed comfort. From my sister, I snapped. Jeremiah, startled by my raised voice, started crying. Darren instinctively pulled him into his arms and rocked him gently. My mother rushed over to soothe him too, but me. I stood in the middle of the party. I hadn't even finished hosting. Watching as the people I loved circled around the child who was physical proof of the most disgusting betrayal I'd ever experienced, I could barely hear my own voice when I spoke next. Does anyone at this party care how I feel? Silence. They didn't. Not really. My mother opened her mouth like she was about to say something soothing, but I raised a hand. Don't say. It's not what it looks like. Don't say family is messy. Don't say children are a blessing. I looked directly at Nia. You always wanted what I had, and now you've got it. You win. Nia didn't gloat, not yet, but she held her head high as though proud to finally be seen. I didn't steal him, she said, her tone laced with that righteous defensiveness I knew too well. You pushed him away. Darren shook his head. That's not fair, Nia. Save it, I said. Don't both of you start rewriting history now that you've been caught. I turned to walk away, needing air, real air, not the suffocating mixture of jasmine and family shame. My heels crunched along the gravel path, leading toward the garden trail. My heart was pounding so loudly, I barely noticed that someone had followed me. It was my cousin Asha. Girl, she said, wrapping her arms around me. I swear if I had my way, I'd knock them both into next week. I laughed, though nothing was funny. Did you know? No, she said, shaking her head. I mean, I suspected something was off. The way Nia always asked about Darren, the weird glances, but I didn't know about the child. Neither did I. We sat on a bench beneath a cherry blossom tree. For a moment, I allowed myself to breathe. Then, I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila envelope I had brought with me just in case. Inside was everything: the private investigator's report, photographs, receipts. I had known something for weeks. Not everything, not about the child, but enough to know this day would eventually come. You going to show them? Asha asked. I nodded. Not yet, but soon. When I returned to the party, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Conversations were quieter. Some folks had slipped out early. The cake sat untouched on the buffet table. Nia was chatting with my mother, acting like she was already the new matriarch. Darren stood with Jeremiah on his hip, looking like he wanted to disappear. I stepped onto the small platform my father had built for the toast and clinked my glass. Before we all go home, I said, I'd like to say something. The crowd turned toward me expectantly. Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate the gifts, the smiles, the love. I paused, looked toward Darren, then at Nia, and I especially appreciate honesty. Even when it's late, even when it's brutal. But you see, honesty doesn't erase betrayal. It doesn't undo the choice to lie every single day for years. Murmurs rose through the crowd. I will no longer protect people who don't protect me, I continued, my voice rising slightly. So, I'll be brief. Darren and I are done. Effective immediately. And as for Nia, I let the silence build. You're going to need more than boldness to raise that child. You're going to need truth. And real truth doesn't hide for 2 years. Then I raised my glass to heal in mine, and I walked off that platform without looking back. By the time I made it back to my car, I had no idea how I'd driven there in the first place. My hands were shaking too hard to grip the wheel, and the party music in the distance felt like a cruel soundtrack to a life I didn't recognize anymore. I sat in silence, air conditioning blowing to cold. The scent of jasmine lotion clinging to my arms from earlier, a reminder of how I had expected that day to be beautiful. Then my phone buzzed. 23 missed calls, 14 texts from Darren, from Nia, from my mother. All of them desperate to explain what they'd done, as if anything could make that make sense. I didn't reply to any of them. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I called my lawyer instead. Her name was Deja Knocksharp, professional.com, under pressure. I'd quietly hired her a month earlier when I'd started noticing the lies stacking up like dishes Darren never washed. At the time, I didn't have full proof of an affair, but I knew something was wrong. And I'd learned painfully from growing up in my parents' house with Nia always circling my life like a hawk, that being prepared was my only real defense. That night, I moved out of the townhouse while Darren was at work. My best friend Sierra helped me pack the essentials clothes, important documents, the few pieces of furniture that were actually mine. I left behind our wedding album, his suits, the art we bought in New Orleans, all of it. And on the kitchen island, I placed an envelope with a single sentence on top. Deja will be in touch. I didn't care to explain. Not anymore. I stayed with Sierra for 2 weeks. Her apartment was a third-floor walk-up above a noisy cafe downtown, but it was clean, safe, and full of love. Every night, she made me tea. Every morning, she handed me fresh perspective. You know she didn't win, right? She said on the 5th day, her voice firm as we folded laundry together. She lost the moment she decided your man was fair game. I sighed. She didn't think I'd do anything about it. I never do. Well, you are now, Sierra said. And it's about time. The private investigator I'd hired had done more than confirm the affair. He found receipts, security footage of Darren sneaking into Nia's apartment late at night, and texts that confirmed their relationship had been going on for over a year and a half, well before Jeremiah was even born. Worse, they had actually used my birthday weekend the previous year to take a secret getaway in Asheville. I thought Darren had gone for a client presentation. I even baked him cookies to take with him. He hadn't taken them. He'd taken Nia. I didn't tell my parents right away that I'd moved out, but word travels fast in our family. Within a week, my mother called, her voice drenched in soft pity. Talia, we just want what's best for everyone involved. There's a child. Now, there's always been a child. Mama, I said calmly. Me. Silence. You've always cleaned up after Nia's messes, I added. But not this time. This one's hers to clean. Darren is still family. Not to me, I cut in. She went quiet and I hung up. 3 days later, Darren showed up at Sierra's door unannounced. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed. But I didn't feel anything for him anymore. Not anger. Not sorrow. Just indifference. Talia, he began. Please, just let me talk. You said everything you needed to say the moment you walked into that party with Nia and your child. He rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't mean for it to happen that way. I didn't plan any of this. Do you even hear yourself? I asked. You've been in a relationship with my sister for 2 years. You have a son. That's not an accident. That's a whole life you built behind my back. He looked down. I panicked. I didn't know how to tell you. So, you just let it sit. Let me sleep beside you. Make plans. Talk about our future. All while raising a child with my own blood. Talia, I was confused. No, you were selfish. I corrected. And now you're caught. I shut the door in his face. That night, Nia called. I was tempted to ignore it, but something told me to pick up. She was crying. I didn't mean to ruin your life, she said between sobs. You didn't, I said, my voice flat. You ruined your own. There was a long silence. Then she whispered, Darren's not who I thought he was. I caught him texting someone else, some girl from his office. I didn't even blink. Well, I said, now you know how it feels. She sniffled. I just want to die. Don't know. I wanted someone to choose me. You chose someone else's husband, I said. And now you're surprised that he's not loyal to you. Nia started crying harder. You're my sister. And you treated me like a stranger, I replied. No, you treated me like a rival, but I'm not playing that game anymore. Talia, please. I don't have anyone else. I didn't say, that's not my problem. I didn't say good. I said nothing. And I hung up. At the end of the month, I signed the divorce papers in Deja's office with trembling fingers. But it wasn't sadness that made me shake, it was power. The power of choosing myself. When I walked out of that office building, I didn't look back, not once. Moving on wasn't just a decision. It became a discipline. After finalizing the divorce, I stayed with Sierra a few more weeks. Then found a sleek 1-bedroom apartment in South End with warm hardwood floors and a balcony that caught the best kind of sunlight in the morning. Darren always said, places like that were too trendy. That made me sign the lease faster. I painted the living room sage green, bought a second-hand couch I loved, and spent my evenings lighting candles and rebuilding my peace. The silence no longer felt lonely, it felt earned. Professionally, I was thriving. My branding agency landed a contract with a major eco-beauty company, and for the first time, I wasn't doubting whether I deserved the seat at the table. I poured myself into work, not to escape, but because I had rediscovered what I was good at without someone second-guessing me. A few months after the party, I started taking long walks after work, listening to music, journaling, and trying to forgive myself for staying in a marriage that had already left me long before I left it. And during one of those walks, I ran into someone. His name was Amir. He worked in interior design and had just opened a studio 2 blocks from my apartment. He recognized me from a networking event we'd both attended a year ago. Back then, I had been with Darren. I barely remembered the event. He made me leave early that night, but Amir remembered me. "You were the one who stood up during that panel and asked that question about authenticity and branding," he said. I laughed, surprised. "You remember that?" He smiled. It was the only question worth asking that day. Amir was kind, gentle, in a way that made space instead of taking it. He didn't push. He didn't rush. Over time, he became a friend, a real one. He never asked about Darren or Nia unless I brought it up. And when I did, he listened. No advice, no judgment, just space to grieve and grow. One night over dinner, he said, "You didn't just survive something, Talia, you stepped out of something that wasn't worthy of you." That's strength. I didn't cry, but I wanted to. Nia, on the other hand, was falling apart. I knew from mutual family updates, some direct, some whispered, that she and Darren had unraveled fast. After the birthday party fallout, Darren moved in with her for a short time, but it didn't last. He had started seeing a coworker, someone younger, someone oblivious to the wreckage he left behind. Nia, left with a toddler, a shattered reputation, and no emotional safety net, started calling our parents more, and they predictably tried to rope me back in. "She's trying, Talia," my mother insisted over the phone one evening. "She's in therapy. She knows she messed up. I hope she finds peace," I said flatly. "You should visit the baby sometime." "Jeremiah's innocent in all of this, I know," I replied. "But I'm still healing. That doesn't include being her comfort." My father surprisingly respected my boundary. "You've done enough for this family," he told me one Sunday afternoon. "It's time they give something back to you." One afternoon, a handwritten letter arrived in my mailbox. It was from Natalia. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to say this without asking for anything. I was wrong. So wrong, not just for what I did with Darren, but for a lifetime of competing with someone who was never trying to compete with me. Our parents made me feel like I had to shine brighter, louder, just to be noticed. I thought if I took what you had, I'd feel special, too. I didn't. I only felt emptier. I'm sorry, for real, for everything. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm working on myself now. And I just wanted you to know I finally see it. I see you. Love, Naya." I didn't respond, but I kept the letter, not because I trusted her again, but because it was the first time in our lives that she had admitted the truth without an audience. Jeremiah turned 3 in the spring. I got an invitation to his birthday party through my mother. Of course, I didn't go, but I sent a gift, a collection of books with a note that said, "To Jeremiah, may you grow up free of your parents' mistakes and full of your own joy." I never heard back, and that was fine. Amir and I started seeing more of each other. Slowly, carefully. One evening, we walked through a night market together. He bought me lavender honey and held my hand without gripping it tight. He didn't try to fix me. He simply stood next to me like a partner, not a savior. When he dropped me off, he said, "You know, you have every right to be happy." I smiled. I'm finally starting to believe that. 1 year later, I stood in my own apartment, light streaming in through gauzy curtains, a breeze rustling the plants, on the balcony, and stared at my reflection in the full-length mirror. It was my 35th birthday and I had just finished zipping up a teal wrap dress I bought for myself. Not to impress anyone or hide anything, but because it made me feel radiant. There was no Darren, no drama, no scandal hiding in a gift bag. This birthday was mine. I had invited a small group of friends over. People who had loved me through my worst days and never asked me to shrink to keep the peace. We weren't gathering at a lavish venue this time, just my apartment rooftop, decorated with string lights, fresh flowers, and the scent of grilled lemon chicken wafting from the corner. Amir was there. He brought a bouquet of wildflowers and a leather-bound journal. "This is for your next chapter," he said, placing it in my hands. I opened the cover. The first page held a handwritten note. "You've already written your survival story. Now write your joy." Amir. My hands trembled, not from pain, from possibility. Throughout the evening, laughter filled the air. We danced, we shared stories. Someone played Jill Scott on a Bluetooth speaker, and the entire rooftop swayed. There was no birthday toast with a sting. No family betrayal blooming beneath a plastic smile. When they brought out the cake vanilla bean with cream cheese frosting, I smiled. Not just politely, but deeply. Make a wish, someone called. I didn't need to. Everything I wanted was already blooming right in front of me. Later that night, when most guests had left, Amir and I stayed on the rooftop, feet propped up on a bench. The city lights painting the sky in soft gold. He looked at me and said, "What do you think would have happened if that birthday last year had never happened?" I considered it. I'd probably still be married, I said. Still shrinking. Still trying to be enough for people who never made space. For me, he nodded. And now, I said, smiling, I'm enough for myself. Everyone else is just extra, he laughed. That sounds like someone I could fall for. You already did, I teased. A few days later, I got a voicemail from Nia. Voice sounded calmer than I remembered, measured, like she was trying hard not to unravel. Hey Talia, I heard it was your birthday. I know you didn't invite me, and I understand, but I hope it was peaceful. Jeremiah's doing well. He talks about you even though he doesn't really know you yet. If one day you ever feel ready to meet him, we'd both be lucky. She paused. I'm still in therapy, still trying to unlearn everything I thought made me worthy. Anyway, I hope this year brings you softness and joy. Happy birthday. I didn't call back, but I didn't delete the message either. Some stories don't need an ending, just a boundary. A door you might open later, but only on your terms. My parents, too, had grown in their own quiet way. At a family dinner months before, my father had pulled me aside and said, "I'm sorry I didn't protect you better. I let too much slide for too long." I didn't say, "I forgive you." Not right away, but I looked at him and said, "Thank you. That matters." He smiled, eyes glassy. We're learning, all of us. My mother still tiptoed around the topic of Naya, but she no longer pressured me to reconcile. She had finally started listening instead of fixing. That was enough for now. As for Darren, last I heard, he was single again. His new relationship had fizzled fast. He had moved to Dallas to start over, and I hoped he did, not because I wanted him back, but because I no longer needed him to suffer for me to heal. He had taken pieces of my life, but not the best ones, not my peace, not my joy, not my future. I used to think betrayal would destroy me, but I learned something else. It refined me. Like gold passed through fire, I came out pure, not perfect, but whole. I had been the woman, standing in a garden, surrounded by lies, cake melting beside me, heart in pieces. And still, I'd walked away with dignity, and I had rebuilt without applause, without vengeance, just quiet strength. On my journal's first page, beneath Amir's quote, I wrote, "She let the lies fall and grew something true." Then I closed the book and started writing the next chapter with no shadow beside me. Just sun. Thank you for following my journey. If you've ever had to walk away from betrayal, know that you're not alone. And to everyone learning to choose peace after pain, happy birthday to you, too.